Hello everybody, I hope you're all doing well. This processing video is from my last video. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link up in the corner here. And it's going to be a pretty quick video where I just combine two photographs into one. You may recall that the problem that I was having was lens flare. So in this first image here, you'll see that I've put my finger in front of the sun to prevent any lens flare. So I've exposed for the foreground and the sky is pretty much blown out. There's no detail in there whatsoever. So I took this photograph and then I did a little bit of processing in Lightroom and I made it into the original format, or just adjusted it to the original format. And then the other image that I'm going to combine this with is this shot here. This is the original image. And for this photograph, I've exposed for the sky and a bit of the ocean here. But you'll notice that the rest of the foreground is obviously way underexposed. So with some adjustments, you can see that I've tried to match it to the first image as much as possible. But what this photograph is lacking is any kind of light from the sun going down, and that's what we're going to be combining here. Something else that you may have noticed, if you're observant, is that in my final image in the video, I actually have a sunburst just poking out above the trees there. And I'll show you what I did in Photoshop for that as well. So the first thing you want to do is do your adjustments. I've already done those in Lightroom, and we're just going to open both of these photos in Photoshop as layers. Open as layers in Photoshop. Right, as you can see, I've opened up these two images as layers. And the first thing I'm going to do is just select both of those and go up to Edit and Auto Align Layers. I always do that if I'm going to combine a bunch of layers together. I always make sure that they're all aligned as much as possible. All right, so the next thing you want to do, now you can do this either with this image on the top layer, this image on the top layer, or this one. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever your preferences happen to be. I'm going to do it with the sky layer on top. And what I'm going to do is put a black mask on that, so we're hiding this layer. So I'm just going to go down to the mask icon down at the bottom here, press Option and Mask, and you'll notice that all of a sudden we have this black mask. Now, once I've done that, it's very simple. Just make sure you click on the mask, go over to the paintbrushes here, pick white, and B for brush. And to get rid of the hand, my hand, I'm definitely going to have to go 100%. So 100% flow, 100% opacity, and then you just start painting. And you can obviously you can feather this. It's not so important when you first start, but as you get closer to the edge here, then you'll definitely want to start feathering. We just keep plugging along with that until we've got rid of all of my hand there. Like that. And that's pretty much it. It's a very easy process to do. Now, obviously, if you want to make sure that the foreground kind of matches with the background in terms of luminosity, you may have noticed that the foreground looks a little odd because it looks, to my eye anyway, it looks just a little bit too bright. So what you can do in that case is bring the flow down, all the opacity, let's bring the flow down to say 3%, and we can just paint a little bit of that foreground from the top layer into the bottom layer, if that makes sense. Now, I'm trying to be careful not to go over these areas where I have sunlight, because you may recall that the top layer doesn't have those pieces of light in there. Like in here, this might be a bit too bright, so we can just darken this a little bit. And the rest is just a taste, and then you would process the image as normally. Now then, some of you may be thinking, okay, but where did that sun star come from? Well, this is a little technique that I've used now and then. I don't use it that often because you're pretty much adding something that was there but wasn't really there. In the first frame here, this one, the sun was actually out behind my finger there. I tried to take some photographs of just the sun so that I was able to add it as a third layer, but I just get too much lens flare. So in those situations, what I'll do is I'll actually add my own sun. So at this point, you're probably thinking, what? Add your own sun? How would you add your own sun? Well, here is my own sun. This is actually a sun made in Photoshop. And all I'm going to do is just add this to my photograph. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to drag this over. And we're just going to place this wherever we want it. Now, I want this to be as realistic as possible. The sun was going down just over here above that building there. So I'm just going to add it to that area right there. And then there's a number of things you can do here. You can just experiment. I think I used screen with this one. Screen seems to work one of the best ways to do this. And all of a sudden, there we go. We have our sun star. Now, if you zoom in on this, it might look a little fake. So what you can do is just go up to perhaps Gaussian blur. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And that's way too much, obviously, because the sun's disappeared. But just add a little bit of a blur to your photograph or to the sun star. Say something like that might be good. And there you go. There's your sun star. And if that looks too big, then you can just go to edit, transform, scale. You could make it a little bit smaller if it looks too obvious. Now, obviously, this is not for everybody. As I said, I don't use this very often. And it's more of just a specular highlight to kind of add a little bit to the photograph. The sun, like I said, the sun was there. It was just that I just couldn't get a photograph of it to give me that sun star effect. And there we go. And there's our little sun star. So if you have any questions, be sure to ask them down below. I'll leave you a copy of the two images, raw files, if you want to play around with them. And I'll also leave you with a copy of the sun star. So if you want to keep that in your catalog and use it for other photographs in the future, you're welcome to do so. All right, I hope this was helpful. As I said, if you have any comments or things that you're not sure about, be sure to ask in the comments down below. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye for now.